Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. Really looking forward to this afternoon's discussion with our two colleagues. One is Shafiq Masalha, who is a distinguished individual from Israel and Palestine. And he's the person who has been leading a number of the efforts that we've been doing in Israel and Palestine to bring communities together. And our focus has largely been having to do with early childhood and bringing together child mental health professionals to find ways of making the world for those children a better place. Our other colleague that's here today is Ernesto Caffo. He is a professor of neuropsychiatry at Modena University, and he's also been very deeply involved in a number of activities that focus on the well-being of children. Some years ago, I think it was in the late 1990s, he began Telefono Zorro, which was an opportunity for children who were being abused, trafficked, exploited in one way or another to call in and to receive help immediately. And more recently, he's also the president of Foundation Child, which along with Yale University and other institutions around the world have been helping the Eritche movement get underway in Israel and Palestine. And Eritche stands for Empowerment and Resilience for Children Everywhere. And this group began about a decade ago. And what I'm really hoping to do is to find out both from Shafiq and Professor Caffo, how are things going? What's happening? How can we make this world a better place? And if we actually improve early child development, if we really help parents become better parents, what's the likelihood that this will be a more peaceful world, both within the families in which those children are living, but also within the communities in which their families are also a part? And that's basically the question I'd like to be thoughtful with them about. So maybe I can start with just a general discussion about the Eritche movement and to ask both of you to offer a few reflections about what's it been like to bring people together from across cultures, and how can we make a difference in the lives of these children? I should also say that the program actually began when I had the opportunity in Jerusalem to meet with Shafiq when he was meeting with the parents of children in the YMCA, and half of the children in that kindergarten were Arab Israelis and half of them were Jewish Israeli children. And we met together in a place called the Cinematheque, which is just outside the old city of Jerusalem, to talk about a movie that again looked at the transcultural and cross-cultural issues. And I should also mention that Shafiq is also on the board and helped begin another program that really extends from preschool and kindergarten all the way through secondary school. And these are called the hand-in-hand schools. And this is something that he's been devoted to, and actually each one of his 4 children have also been actively involved in those schools. But let's come back to the Eritche initiative. And Shafiq, maybe you can just tell us from your perspective a few words about the Eritche initiative and what has motivated you to be part of it, and just anything that comes to mind that might be helpful for people as they think about how important is early child development and its impact with potential effects with regard to peace building in the world.
As you mentioned, Jim, that the idea of Eritche started in that meeting 10 years ago, where we watched together a movie and made a discussion with the audience. And the message of the movie was that that children who go through atrocities in their childhood, that is partially influenced by the political situation, where they go through traumas. When they are grown up, they become what's called terrorists in certain terminology in the world. And these children who go through these traumas that adults, in fact, inflict in them in their wars that they make. These kids become afterwards frustrated kids, kids who want to take revenge, who are very much giving up their dreams of becoming normative human beings who would like to, in their dreams, to become professionals, to serve their communities, to become fathers and mothers of children. These dreams are gone away once they go through a very difficult childhood within a context of war circumstances. It happens all the time in Israel-Palestine war, but I believe that it is true regarding other regions in the world.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. I guess it makes me think of some of the work that's been done in high-income countries, where they have monitored long-term, sometimes for as long as 30 to 40 years, what the outcomes are for children and parents who have actually been actively engaged in early childhood parenting programs. And I guess probably the program in Chicago has had the longest follow-up of something like 40 years. And when you look at the data, what you see is that to some degree, violence is self-perpetuating. That if you're exposed to violence early in your life, and you look through what happens during adolescence and adulthood, typically these individuals are the ones who are members of gangs, who go on to commit crimes, who spend time in jail, and literally they have looked carefully at these data, and they've even done economic analyses. And here I'm thinking about James Leckman, and he's sort of done the analysis in terms of cost-benefit and has recognized that if you intervene early, you can have the biggest impact. So I think that whole issue about exposure to violence and what it means, and when it happens in the course of development, is something that we need to be very attentive to. And I think especially in a situation like Israel and Palestine, this is something that we can't neglect. Any other thoughts about the Eritrea initiative that you would want to share with the audience?
Jim, we live back home. We live in very unusual circumstances. The war atmosphere is part of the climate that you, part of the air that you breathe every minute. And you listen to the news every hour, and there's a new incidence of killings in both parts, the Israeli and the Palestinian. I work with the Palestinian children as a clinician, and I teach Israeli Jewish students at the university, and I see that how everyone is influenced by this atmosphere, this war atmosphere. And the Eritrea idea was to try to bring together professionals in mental health who are Palestinians and Israelis on the opposite sides of the conflict, and to bring them together and to create some kind of familiarity between them, and trying to speak like to the spirit of each member of the group, and they try to motivate them to work together in order to bring up projects that can serve our children on both sides. It might sound easy to bring professionals together, but in our case it has been not a very easy job to do, because we remain although we are professionals, but we are human beings, and we are very much influenced by this war atmosphere, and to get people talk to each other while there's killing on the outside of the room where they sit is not a very easy job. But we have been, for 10 years now, able to create this kind of coalition between the members of ERICHI and Professor Ernesto Caffo has been very much supportive to this group, and without inviting us to meet in your country, in Italy, we wouldn't, I think, be able to survive, because it's very difficult to meet in our own region under these circumstances. And the fact that you took us away, you gave us the opportunity to take some distance from our region. This was very helpful in having us develop as a group.
Thank you, Shafiq. Ernesto, thank you for being here. And I guess I would just be very grateful for your reflections with regard to not only the ERICHI initiative, but many of the other activities that you're involved in around the world to make sure that children are safe and that we're doing our best to help them in terms of their development reach their full potential.
I think that to be here for me is to come back to the story of my training, or the story of my investment in children's rights, starting from child psychiatry, because when I come here in Yale, for me the idea was to care children through the classical approach, means evaluate the child and not to care so much about the family and the context, cultural context. And I learned a lot from Donald Cohen and all the group of Yale, how to build a new way of thinking. That for me was to work in the community and to understand that we have to work more and more about with the children and listening to the children. And for that reason we started this helpline for children, and after we build together with Donald Cohen, with other colleagues in Yale, many projects. For example, the project in which we intervene in emergency with the police, how we can care to children and family in the community. And after we start to think about international projects and to build common knowledge between difference in Israel and Palestine, but to in other part of the world. And this was the idea to create a new opportunity to think about the future. And I think to invest in young generation, for example, in training is very important. To train young psychiatrists and psychologists to think about the human being, the people that you have in face of us. And we have to exclude from our thinking some prejudice, some idea that we have. And sometimes in the school we give a bad idea about the other. We have to implement the idea that we have to create a peaceful place in which people can combine the effort to build a new way of thinking together. And in this case, I think we have to work more, because international organizations and two professional groups are more and more interested to build a new way of thinking and to intervene very early in the development, to create projects for early intervention and to create early intervention for all the people. And for example, we have this huge problem of migrant children. And we have to face the problem with the new knowledge of the professionals, but too with the new policy of intervention, because we can segregate incoming children in Europe, but to in other part of the world, in special place, without any opportunity for them to grow and to build their personality and their story. I think we have to think about the future, thinking too about new way of care, and I think that Yale was and is for me a point of reference in this process.
Thank you. I guess it makes me also think of the work that you've been doing with the Vatican and some of the preparations that are underway for the visit of Pope Francis here to the United States and to this part of the world. And I guess I'm just curious in terms of especially the immigration problem that is such a powerful reality in so many parts of Europe. What's going on, and how do we have, what kind of new way of thinking do we need to establish for us to be able to really address this problem in the most successful way? I guess for me, in the work that we've done, one of the things that's been so clear to me is that it's only by making multi-sectorial partnerships, people from government, people from the community, people, the academics of the world, as well as NGOs and others, it's only by creating partnerships with all of those individuals that we're able to make a difference. And I guess I'm curious too about the efforts that Pope Francis has been involved in terms of listening to individuals from other religious backgrounds and trying to build a coalition of people with a more positive view of where the future may be for us as a species.
We have now one very complicated challenge to face. From one side, religions play a crucial role in the community, and we see this too in many parts of the world. Outer religion can destroy culture and can destroy the life of many people. And in other side, I think religion can make a big change in the society. And the Pope liked to give a message about the new generation, that we have to invest more in the new generation, starting from the family, that is crucial to protect children, to protect with the elderly and older people that are not able to be independent. And from other side, thinking about children, we have to think about the value of children in the community. And the Pope liked to think that children have to be located in a primary position for the policy and for intervention. It is what the Pope liked to say in the next trip. And we have to think more about, in a proactive way, how the region can be protective and can do more for children, starting from bad experience that we had in many regions, too in the Catholic religion, about pedophilia. But we have to do more for children, to invest more in training, in education, and in care of children, in particular for children that are in a very difficult situation, for example, migrant children. And the Pope like to speak about trafficking of children. That is a huge problem around the world, and this is one area in which governments, professional, and organizations have to work together.
You know, it's a very sobering reality in terms of the sheer numbers of children and what's been happening with families in Syria and the Middle East and Africa, and families looking for a way to have a better life by moving to some place in Europe or somehow leaving behind the tragedies that have been part of their existence.
You know, Jim, I think speaking of immigrants, which is like a new, because it's a big wave that happened recently, so it brings up the issue of multiculturalism in a way, because the Western communities have to deal with foreign culture to them, and the whole issue of how cultures interact, how they manage to communicate and to live together. I think that it starts from early childhood, because the way that you raise your child, whether you raise him as being aware of the other who is different, or provide him with skills and equip him with ways of how to communicate with the other, how to accept the other, how to contain the other who is different. I mean, these are all values and ways of thinking that we give our children a chance to build up in them and take them in order to manage their life. Imagine that kids all over the world are provided with these skills right from the beginning, from early childhood. Then, of course, we will have a better, well society.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. I think one of the main teachers for the children, of course, are their parents and what they see their parents doing in terms of interacting with members of other groups. And I guess it makes me think of your 4 wonderful children who have been part of the hand-in-hand school, where their entire education has been bilingual, both Arabic and to Hebrew, and some of their good friends are from another culture. And it's wonderful to see what the opportunities are that provides. But your leadership, I think, has been extraordinary. It's also interesting to me because this brings up the issue of the next generation. So we've been doing the Erache work for 10 years, and there have been a few new additions along the way. But one of the things that we really need to find a way of focusing on is how to bring the young people into the community and have them be a part of this active effort in terms of crossing these cultural divides. And one of the things that Erache has been involved in from the beginning is joint training programs. And I guess I'm just curious, any thoughts that you might have about how best to move forward in terms of actually investing in the new generations. And things are constantly changing. I'm an old man. Of course, my grandchildren are always looking for my iPhone that they can borrow and want to play some games on it or do some other things. And the world will be a different place than certainly it was when I was their age. But I'm just curious in terms of bringing on the next generation of new leaders, what can we do to make a real difference? And certainly starting out with some of these programs like the hand-in-hand schools or some of the other interventions that you've been involved with, Ernesto, is a way to start. But any other thoughts about that?
As you mentioned, Jim, personally, I believed in what I just said, that I wanted my children to be open-minded, to be able to deal with the other who is different, to be multicultural people. That was my idea. And for me, it was a priority over being brilliant academically. I mean, I thought that the atmosphere that they, in school, that they have to grow up in is an atmosphere that has this kind of openness. That was my major principle. So when my first kid was in this kindergarten where Arab and Jewish kids were, they had either to go to an Arab school or to a Jewish school. That was the choice. There was no bilingual school or Arab-Jewish school. So I started from there to try to create this kind of school for them. And now in Jerusalem we have this school with 700 families involved in. So that was the transforming this value to action. And I now, my oldest is a student at the university. My older two daughters are in the Hebrew University, and they deal with the Jewish people from a different point of view. They have been experienced this all their 12 years in school, and now it continues in university. They will not resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, of course, but the fact that if we have more and more people who are able to communicate, I believe that we will create a new reality. In terms of Erache, with Professor Caffo's, of course, support, we are trying to do now 2 projects. One is having Palestinian and Israeli professionals be like together doing implementing projects and getting mutual training. This is one part, and the other part is parenting. Have these professionals run programs for parents, for Jewish and Palestinian parents, helping them to try to raise their children in a healthy way. If we really, the more we do of this, I believe that the more influence we will have.
From other side, I think new technology can play a very crucial role because now children, adolescents, and young adults take in contact between new technology. And I think new technology sometimes can be very helpful to overcome the bridge, overcome the difference, and to create a new opportunity to grow together. We have now in the organization that I chair, Telefono Azzurro, the opportunity to speak with the children through the net. And we see how they like to participate, to be active, to discuss about topics that before were more topic for adults. And for that reason, we are to organizing in next May a big conference with the Vatican, in which religious people with people from the big companies technology will speak together how we can implement culture and content in the internet, because to prevent, I think, division and sometimes terrorism, we have to create a culture of positiveness in the children area, and the new network can be very important for them and for us to learn from them, because in many social networks they speak a lot about what they think, and this can be very helpful for us to know better what we have to do as adults to teach them the right solution for their life.
I guess I've been fascinated by how interconnected we all are, and certainly through social media and the internet, that interconnection is getting stronger and stronger. And finding ways to connect with people who have similar values, who want to make this world a better place for children, and to bring people together is one of the motivations that we've had for creating this Early Childhood Peace Consortium. And both of you were involved in one way or another in the planning for that. And we just recently had a meeting in Istanbul with our colleagues in Turkey in the ACEV Mother-Child Education Foundation, and we're about to begin having regular meetings with the steering committee. But I think your experience in creating these cross-cultural dialogues, these ways of creating partnerships with individuals from multiple sectors, I guess it makes me think of Daniel Cardon and some of the other people that were present. We need to find a way forward, and there's so many people with good hearts that really want to make a difference in this world. And how can we find a way to work together with them? Sometimes the things that are true through our lives, where it's all about me, or about my organization, or about my religion, or whatever it might happen to be, can sometimes get in the way of recognizing in the other the basic goodness that is there in terms of their humanity and their wanting to make a difference in this world. And I think one of the challenges that we face is how to negotiate that so that we bring people like yourselves together to make a difference. But I guess I also wanted to ask you, well, how can people provide support to ACEV? How can they provide support to Erice? How can they provide support to Telefono Azzurro and to Foundation Child? I guess they can look on the internet and see exactly what the opportunities would be. And I guess if anyone has any thoughts too about how best to involve the next generation, to have them be, because when we've presented this to some of the Yale students here, they've actually gotten quite excited, because the idea that we can make a difference from the ground up in terms of how we are working in society is something that they find quite attractive, and they are the leaders for the next generation. So anything that we can do to engage them in this process, I would be very grateful for any thoughts you have about that. But I think I'm probably about done, but I would ask each of my colleagues to say, if you have something that you want to share with the world through the internet, what would you say? Shafiq.
I would say that our real challenge right now in this era is how to create a world in which people who are different can not only live together side by side, but being enriched by having mutual relationship.
Global citizens.
I think that we have to think more about children's rights, and we have to listen more to children. And we have to create a world where the children can play a crucial role, because peace starts from the children, new generation, and we have to invest more in the early intervention and to support the family when they are in difficulties, without any difference between region, between culture, within the region which they live.
So with that, I'll just close, and we've been talking a lot about Donald Cohen today, although not so much in this conversation. But he was a dear friend and colleague who is no longer with us. But the book that he prepared at the end of his life was Life is with Others. And whatever else is true about this world, we may look like independent individuals, but we are all deeply interconnected. And we've also had the opportunity to work with the Ernst Strugman Forum, and this was just published, I guess, late last year by the MIT University Press, and it's called Pathways to Peace, the Transformative Power of Children and Families. And we brought together, I think, about 40 individuals from around the globe who were experts in everything from cross-cultural dialogue and interfaith dialogue to people who are active on the ground to people who are policymakers. And I think one of the challenges is to find a way to create these multi-sectorial partnerships, to move ahead with something that we all deeply believe needs to be done and that can make a real difference. So thank you very much.
Thank you.